Some truths don't shout. They hide in how we behave, what we chase, and what we fear losing. And unless someone names them, we keep calling dysfunction normal. Now, listen closely. Living in an environment where your ideas are never taken seriously slowly teaches your brain to stop thinking out loud. The damage isn't loud, it's silent obedience. Over time, people start editing their minds before they even speak. Not because they're shy, but because they were repeatedly dismissed. Your mind will choose familiar pain over unfamiliar peace every time. Most people don't heal because their comfort zone is pain disguised as normal. The brain prefers what it recognizes, even if it's destroying you. And that's how toxic patterns repeat silently. You don't attract what you deserve, you attract what you tolerate. Your boundaries write your story louder than your intentions. People treat you according to the rules you allow, not the love you want. Silence is permission to repeat the pain. If you grew up having to earn love, you'll think peace is a transaction. You'll think being calm is unsafe, because love always followed pain. So you'll create storms just to feel something real. You weren't dramatic, you were trained in survival. When someone needs chaos to feel alive, your peace will feel boring to them. That's why toxic people run from calm relationships. Peace doesn't feed their need to feel powerful. You can feel deeply connected to someone who is quietly destroying you, because trauma makes chaos feel familiar. Not all love is healthy. Some bonds are just well-dressed wounds. If someone only loves the easy parts of you, it's not love, it's comfort. Real love shows up during your worst, not just your best. And many leave because they only came for the highlight reel. Not everyone who makes you feel good is good for you. Some people are drugs in human form. They soothe you short-term and destroy you long-term. Feelings lie, patterns don't. You don't outgrow people because you're better. You outgrow them because they stopped growing. When you evolve, the old versions of people start feeling heavy. That's not pride, that's self-respect. If you're always the helper, be careful. People stop seeing you as someone who also needs help. Givers often suffer quietly while being praised loudly. Psychologically, people adapt to your strength and ignore your struggle. That's how emotional burnout begins. People who are emotionally neglected often over-explain, not for clarity, but for safety. They fear being misunderstood because it always came with punishment. So they repeat, over-explain, justify, not to be heard, but to avoid rejection. Not everyone who avoids confrontation is peaceful. Some just grew up where speaking up got them punished. They weren't taught to express, they were taught to endure. Now silence is their default, even when they're dying inside. It's not calmness, it's conditioned fear. Some people fall in love with how you made them feel, not with who you are. They're attached to the experience, not the person. When that feeling fades, so do they. And you're left wondering if you were ever truly seen. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. Your truth isn't toxic, suppression is. The more you abandon your voice, the more others learn to ignore it. Peace doesn't mean quiet, it means honesty without fear. The more emotionally intelligent you become, the less you argue. Most things aren't worth the energy. Understanding yourself teaches you one thing. Peace is better than being right. You forgive too fast because you're scared of losing people, not because the hurt didn't matter. You rush past your pain just to keep them close. But unresolved wounds don't disappear, they just go silent. And silence turns into self-betrayal. You scroll through your phone not because you're bored, but because you're avoiding something in real life. Distraction is often a symptom of emotional discomfort. You're not just killing time, you're escaping something unresolved. The habit looks harmless, but the avoidance builds up quietly. People don't abandon you when they're tired. They abandon you when you become hard to control. Insecure people see boundaries as disrespect, so when you grow, they leave. Not because you changed, but because they lost control. When you're always the one forgiving, people stop learning how to stop hurting you. Mercy without boundaries becomes fuel for abuse. Kindness shouldn't cost your peace. Repeated apologies with repeated pain aren't growth. They're manipulation. You confuse being needed with being loved. Because as a child, you were valued only when useful. So now, if you're not helping, you feel invisible. But you are more than your service. Love that requires performance isn't love, it's employment. You become dangerous the moment you realize peace is your power, not your weakness. People can't control a calm mind. That's why they try to disrupt it. Your silence triggers people more than your anger. It forces them to hear their own thoughts. People who depend on your emotional reactions will hate your distance. Silence reveals more about others than you think. You feel weird celebrating yourself, not because you're humble, but because you were taught pride is shameful. You learn it to downplay your wins, to shrink your light. But celebration isn't arrogance, it's self-recognition. You've probably laughed at things that are quietly destroying your mental health. Because humor is how we hide trauma when we're not ready to face it. It's easier to turn pain into memes than to admit we're breaking. But the cost is steep. You normalize what's killing you. Every joke you tell might be a wound you refuse to treat. The biggest lie is time heals all wounds. The truth is, it just buries what you never faced. Time only numbs pain. Healing requires courage. Don't confuse silence with peace. Your triggers are not your enemies. They are your teachers. Every time you overreact, your subconscious is showing you a wound. If you ignore it, it repeats. If you face it, it teaches. A child who grows up watching adults settle for less will see sacrifice as love. They'll think giving everything and receiving little is normal. Even when they suffer, they'll call it loyalty. And that mindset becomes hard to unlearn. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of being seen failing. Most dreams die because of an imaginary audience. We fear judgment that never arrives. And by hiding from shame, we bury greatness. The truth is, no one's watching as closely as you think. Some people weren't raised to express disagreement. They were trained to suppress it. So they nod even when they want to scream. They call it peace, but it's fear in disguise. That's how the environment kills voice without touching the mouth. Being surrounded by ungrateful people trains your mind to feel guilty for resting. You feel like you owe everyone your energy. Even when you're drained, you'll keep giving. That's not kindness. That's emotional slavery. You don't feel overwhelmed because life is too full. You feel overwhelmed because you haven't processed what's behind you. Each unhealed memory piles up like static. And when the present whispers, the past screams louder. Reflection isn't optional. It's necessary for clarity. Thanks for watching. If this felt like truth, you'll probably find more of yourself here next time. Quiet minds often find loud answers in places like this.